Howdy folks, welcome to a new working week. It is brilliant to see you here with me. Hopefully you're enjoying your working day, or you're coming home from work and you're having a nice time of it. If you like what I do, please follow the Patreon if you would be so kind, or become a member of the channel, or maybe subscribe to the channel, share the video, like the video, do all that fun stuff that helps me out in the algorithm, because me and a bunch of other YouTube creators who follow Warhammer are getting absolutely pummeled by the algorithm this month. We have no idea why, but yeah, which we're trying to keep our heads above water, put it that way. But yeah, the WhatsApp group is currently like, oh my god, like constantly, because everyone's videos are getting tanked. But anyway, let's do some more Hobby Nightmares, shall we? Again, I'm going to try and keep these but the sub 30 minutes, because I think that's an optimal time to really have the videos there where my voice doesn't get strained and I don't start getting fatigued with it. I'd rather do 5 videos a week that are 20 to 30 minutes than do 3 videos a week that are all nearly an hour, you know. So yeah, that's just where I am with things. Just letting you know how I'm going to do things on the channel moving forwards. So, tomorrow, which is Tuesday, I will be doing my own Hobby Nightmare stories. One from my GW past. Not decided which one yet, but we'll see. Today, we're going to be doing a few of yours. And the first one is Cole. So Cole says, "Hey Northern, I thought I would send in an unpopular opinion, or a popular one, that is if you're living in Australia. Games Workshop's treatment of its Australian and New Zealand customers is nothing short of colonial in nature. And when I mean colonial, I refer to sucking up as much money as they can from Australia/New Zealand and offering next to nothing in return. With regards to New Zealand, I give this example. On Wednesday, Games Workshop in Sydney will shut down to ship orders from the Australian warehouse over to New Zealand for a 20% markup in price. Mind you, Australian customers pay 60% more than the UK anyway. I can say Northern, for example, when you run Australia would have, when you're Australian, you would have been more than happy to pay the prices. There is no problem at all. But the truth is, Australia is worth one out of 1/3 of all of Games Workshop's profits. Yet we are neglected and dismissed by GW. Australia's worth 1/3 of Games Workshop's profits, really? Okay. I have to look that up. It sounds like a very high number. Buying recasts is common in Australia. The best quality recasts are still cheaper than GW prices, and 90% of events are private, so event organisers don't care if they have a recast army or not, so long as it's a 40k model, or at least looks like a 40k model. So it seems to me like the Australian market is adapting for the ridiculous pricing that Games Workshop goes through. What does this mean? What this means is people in Australia love the hobby but hate GW. There is a famous Australian story about a guy who assembled recasts in front of a GW store manager. This man is viewed by Australians as a hobby hero. A Chad in the UK, he'd be referred to as something else. We in Australia love the hobby, but we hate GW. I wish GW would meet us at least halfway and listen to us." Okay, maybe this is something that Mac over at the Outer Circle could help us with, because obviously this is something he deals with a lot more than I do. I believe he runs a store too, or at least has a business that is involving models and stuff, so he could probably give us a more in-depth, detailed answer. So if you hear Mac in the comments, let us know, man, and let us know what you think. But for me, I only have a few Australian friends. I did have one person come to our store from Australia when I was working. I wasn't the manager, I was a staff member. And he came over, and this guy, who's a big Orc player, and he was making the standard Orc Mad Max style, Speed Freaks army. And he came in with, like a couple £100 that he just literally went to the exchange office and got that day. Came into Games Workshop and bought his army, and that was it. He was done, and took it back to Australia with him. He was there visiting his wife's family in the UK. And when I spoke to him about it, he was just like, yeah, what you say here, Cole, about recasts is incredibly astute, because if that's exactly what he said. He said, yeah, about 80-90% of the armies in Australia that I've come across will be recasts. He was just like, yeah, I use them all the time. Luckily, my manager didn't hear that, because I had a bit of a weird manager who, if he heard something like that, he would try and get you out the store, essentially, But yeah, I can't, this is the kind of thing in the marketplace, I can't blame you for seeking an alternative when Games Workshop is sucking every single bit of life out of you. Like, I cannot blame you for going to recasts and going to things that are more illegal and IP infringement territory than what is normally acceptable, right? And I've always said this, like, if GW do not provide a service, then you should be able to go and get that service from elsewhere. It's called competition. And it should hold people accountable. In a capitalist society, which is what Australia is, again, like most of the Western world, competition should be celebrated as a good thing, where you're keeping people honest by the fact that if you don't provide a service, somebody else will. And I'll be honest with you, I'm quite glad to hear, Col, that at least from your experience, like quite a lot of event organisers tend to turn a blind eye to that kind of thing, because, you know, a 60% markup is ridiculous. You know, an extra 20% markup on top of that for people in New Zealand that's borderline criminal, especially when you consider, you know, just how little it takes for Games Workshop to make these sets, how much profit they're getting in the UK and other places. Yes, I know there are shipping costs. Yes, I know that there are licensing fees and, you know, territory fees and things like that. Completely on board with you with that. And I know perhaps the models of Games Workshop should be a little more expensive in places like Australia. Number one, I don't know why you don't just ship some of your manufacturing process over to Australia to give people a bit of a heads up in their wallet. And number two, even if it is a little bit more than the UK, it shouldn't be 60% more. Yeah, that's borderline criminal right there. Borderline robbery. But anyway, cheers for saying that in, man. Hopefully you got my perspective. Natna says, hi, Mr. Exile. So Natna, if you didn't know, is a ex-GW manager who likes to write in and tell me things that have been going on in his life and in his store when he was there. He says, hi, Mr. Exile. Now that the saga of Tom is over, I wanted to share some more tales from my time at good old Games Workshop. This one is about the manager I eventually came to replace. We'll call him Jono. Alright, let me just take a sip of water here. Okay, so he says, I met Jono before I was even employed by the company. I was just out of university and somehow had some pocket money. I knew I wanted a hellhound or a sentinel for my fledgling guard force, but really couldn't afford both. Excited, I went to this Games Workshop store, and the manager there chatted with me for some time about the units I wanted. Before I knew it, I was leaving with both models, and while I was giddy at my purchases, I couldn't help but feel weird, almost dirty, as though somewhere in my brain I knew I'd been played. Yeah, this is the scummy part of GW practice, is that they try to weaponize your excitement to buy more stuff. It's something that you won't get in GameStop, you won't get in any of these other high street stores that sell hobby stuff. You're just in there and they'll give you advice on what to get. Games Workshop are like one of the only people who will try and upsell you wherever you go, and it's just, I hate it. Anyway, Jono was a pretty big fellow. An ex-marine with a booming voice and the height and girth to match. He loved Games Workshop, especially proud of a time at Games Day where he made some kid so excited about 40k that he peed in his pants. You know, normal things to be proud of. That sounds like a bullshit story that a Games Workshop manager would tell you to feel good about himself. I knew at least 2 or 3 Games Workshop managers who would tell stories like that. That you just shake your head like, dude, shut up. Shut up. Like, either that didn't happen, or if it did, you know, whatever. The problem was that Games Workshop did not like Jono. Unrequited love. Not his superiors, not his subordinates, and especially not his customers. Many hobbyists referred to him as the fun assassin, and you could visibly see players eye roll or tense when he approached them. He knew one tactic, and that was the hard sell. While that might work initially, it got old if you were anything of a regular in the store. On top of this, everyone seemed to know that so long as you flashed the cash, there were no consequences from anything that you did in the store. Your kid is a douche nozzle who is about to be banned from the store. Buy a blame blade, and it'll all be fine. Yeah. There were a few managers like that. Even I was sort of like that. Like I put up with behaviour from certain people when they were dropping a bunce in the store, that I wouldn't from other people. Do you know what I mean? If you came into my store and you never bought anything in the store and you were a douche, your time in my store will be very limited. You know, before I say, listen, you're a douche, Canute, go away. You know. But if you came in and you were a bit of a tosser, but you spent a lot of money, I would keep you away from the rest of the customers by talking to you and making you think that I was your best mate, you know, that sort of a thing. And I wouldn't upsell you, I'd just be like, yeah, okay, yeah, get all this out. And as soon as you were done, I would kindly, like, shepherd you out the door, sort of a thing, so you don't poison everyone else. But you'd still be allowed in the store, you know, it wouldn't be, you know, and I'd be more tolerant of you than I would be of other people. And that's a shitty thing, I know, but we're there to run a business and we're there to keep our jobs. Yeah, it is what it is. So, when I started as a red shirt, I was assigned to his store as a kind of home base. On my first day, I learned that somehow we had another store's banner left in the back room from an event. Not sure if they still do banners, yes they do, but essentially every store in the area would make a kind of flag they would take around to represent themselves at area events. Jono was stressed about getting the banner back to this other store, about a 30-minute drive out of the way, so I volunteered. I was going to be working at that store as well, plus I figured it wouldn't hurt to earn some brownie points with the new boss. Hey, good lad. Excellent. Jono did the usual courtesy, are you sure it's not out of your way? I was insistent though, and happy to take on this task. For a moment I thought I was about to earn those points when Jono's face changed in an instant. His expression flashed into one of anger and hate. He grabbed the front of my shirt and said the following verbatim. Alright, but if you screw this up, I will fucking rip your nuts off. That was my first day. Do you know what, dude? I don't care whether you're a red shirt or whatever. Somebody does that to you in any sort of corporate scene, you go to HR. They'll sort that shit out straight away. I will tell you this, like HR at Games Workshop, they were pretty good, at least with me. You know, and they listened to my complaints. They couldn't do much about them because it was other people in the... I wasn't getting physically abused, you know what I mean? And it was just my word against theirs sort of a thing. But they were very alright with listening to me. And they protected my job quite a lot. They stepped in front of a lot of shit, you know? When they knew... Especially when they could smell a rat. The HR department at GW, especially in the UK, they could smell a rat from a mile away. And when people were talking shit about me, they were some of the first people to step in front of it and go, yeah, don't be twats. Like, we know what the situation is like. Don't, you know, you want this guy out, fair enough, but, you know, do not make his life a fucking misery. He's leaving anyway, sort of a thing, you know. Whereas, like, if somebody did this to me in GW, number one, I'm not going to get into physical altercation with another nerd in a Games Workshop because, you know, that's a low I'm not willing to stoop to. But number two, I'm straight to HR. I don't care if you think it's tattletaling. I don't care. I'm straight to HR. I'm like, yeah, I want this guy gone. Sorry, physically assaulted me. I want him gone. Like, I want him gone yesterday. Especially if you're another manager. You're a red shirt, so maybe not. But like, if you're another manager, no way, mate. You know. It takes a lot for me to flip, you know. I'd probably be too shocked in this instance to do anything about it, but if I thought about it afterwards, I would definitely go to HR and get this guy. If you're in the UK, this guy is sacked. This guy's sacked, you know. Especially if you have a witness, that guy's gone. So he says, life with Jono didn't improve from there either. He was so abusive that I learned at least 2 other red shirts had quit during my time there, one of which had filed a complaint with the company. Through the heart of this, I was somewhat shielded, as I'd been sent to help another store, the store of Wayne, aka Statutory, from another story. Even being told this, even being told if this other store continued to do so well, I'd be assigned there to replace Wayne. Okay, cool. It was a gut punch when the district manager called me one day and told me to report back to Jono's store. I was being permanently assigned there due to the turnover rate. Yeah, sure. I was angry, depressed, and just so defeated. I showed up to the store for my next shift and hated life. After being in a store well run and with a great manager and community, it felt like a punishment being back with Jono. I was so pissed off that I started noticing issues with the current store, cleanliness, stock arrangement, black library layout. I didn't speak to Jono. I instead called the district manager and gruffly told him the state of the store was unacceptable and I was going to set it straight according to GW guidelines. From there, I put myself to work in an angry flurry to fix the store. Then we got a visit from the regional manager. Seems HQ was not happy about Jono to begin with and the complaint filed against him. Yeah, there we go. Told you. Told you. So even where you are, they come down on the shit like a ton of bricks. Yeah, they do not want this sort of thing, you know, in a tribunal, in a court of law. It is not something that GW would ever want. And yeah, if you say something like this and you've got evidence, this guy's gone. Like there's no, you know, that's something you don't do in a Games Workshop at all. You know, verbal abuse, you know, especially with no witnesses, you know, bullying, hazing, they don't care. As soon as you cross that line, though, you're fucking gone. The regional manager pulled all the red shirts into the back and asked about Jono and what was happening. I was pretty nervous at first to speak ill of him to a superior, but it soon tumbled out, expressing how he was an arsehole and no one really liked him. Apparently, the person who filed the complaint did so because Jono gave them an anxiety attack. Okay, cool. From there, the regional manager said, well, we need to write letters vouching for our statements so they could build their case to remove Jono. We happily agreed until they informed us that due to some labour law, we needed to write the letter on the clock in the store. And that meant using the web ordering terminal, basically writing it in front of Jono. Yeah, this seems like a story from back in the day because these days you just bring in your laptop on your break, wouldn't you, and just write it then. Yes, this was a super awkward task and one I delayed for a while as I tried to figure out how you could do this. A week or so later, the regional manager called again, speaking to Jono and demanding that I be allowed to write something on the web terminal. Jono directed me to go write my mysterious letter, but you could tell he was super curious. Realising something was off, he approached me and asked what the letter was we were all writing was about. How do you tell a man twice your size that you're writing a letter to explain that they suck? That's brilliant. A man who also happens to be your boss. I tried to dodge the question for a while, but eventually I sucked up and vomited it out. Yeah, best thing to do. I told Jono everyone's issues with him and how much he sucked as a leader. The more I explained, the easier it became to tell him more. It felt so amazing to finally say it all, until Jono started to cry. There I was, basically alone in this store, making a big-ass ex-marine cry. I didn't even think there's a word for how uncomfortable I was. I also didn't want to take anything back as it was the truth. From there, Jono stormed out of the store, and I was genuinely worried he was going to get a weapon or something, or do something equally stupid. He returned for a few moments later, in an enraged state, bought a ton of stuff before ranting about how they can't fire him because he quits. And then, after that, I never saw him again. Shaken, I worked the rest of my shift, explaining to my co-workers what happened when they arrived. I took my lunch and was sitting in the back reading a codex and eating canned spaghetti. When the regional... canned spaghetti, yeah, you definitely work for Games Workshop, you're skint. When the regional manager called my phone and asked me what happened. I explained the situation, and I was given the store manager position in that moment. A surreal day that's burned into my brain. Much later, I learned part of the reason I was given the job was because I called the district manager that one day and told him I was going to fix the store. Guess it showed I had initiative or something like that. As for Jono, years later, someone told me a detective called them looking for him as apparently he'd bought a car from a friend and just decided never to pay for it. I'll leave it there. Next time I'll try to share funny or more uplifting stories. Thanks for all you do. Mate, keep sending stuff in because, like, your Games Workshop stories, it's always nice because I feel the onus is on me. I have a ton of stories. I've got hundreds of stories from my time at Games Workshop. But I do feel the onus is on me a lot to, like talk about all my stuff and I don't really like dredging up memories that often, especially if they're quite hurtful ones. But, yeah. Which is why I went for a long period where I didn't say my own stories, because number one, I want to give you guys a voice, and so you guys can have your own place to come and have your mind and your thoughts read out on YouTube to a couple of thousand people. It's nice, it's cathartic, right? I want this channel to be the YouTube Games Workshop equivalent of the end of the Burning Man festival. If you don't know what happens there, they have this like wooden effigy. Normally, it's like a cathedral type space, And if you've got something that you need to let go, like someone who's died, or someone who you broke up with, or a bit of pain, you can write a letter to yourself or to that person, or have pictures of that person. You put them up in this cathedral, and at the end of Burning Man, they burn it down as like a catharsis moment for everybody. And I felt that so powerful. And this weekend, I went to a friend's house and we were talking about what I want to do with the channel, and he brought that up when he said, it kind of reminds me of that Burning Man thing. And that's what I want. I want this channel to be like that, which is why I haven't done a lot of my own stories, is because I want you guys to have a voice too, and treat this as your catharsis to get some really ugly memories out there and get them away from you. But cheers, Natna, for doing this. And if you have worked for Games Workshop in the past, if you're listening to this, you want to tell me some stories, you want to get your story out there, then let me know. And yeah, Natna, well done, mate. Yeah, I think you did everything you did in that story seemed pretty spot on to me. I also like the stories that don't end with everybody applauding and you being the hero of the hour. You know what I mean? That it did seem like you were genuinely pissed off, but it also seems like Jono, from the way you described, I think we've all known like a damaged, gentle giant, sort of like that. You know what I mean? Even though he's not that gentle, he's a bit of a prick. But yeah, but as soon as you confront these people, they just start whinging and moaning. It's typical bully behaviour. But anyway. So, Yannicka has written in, and she says, "Hey Exile, hello Yannicka, how are you? Just wanted to bring you a horrifying story from a Dungeons & Dragons campaign I played with a group of friends. All the names are changed to protect privacy, even mine." And in brackets she says, "I just like the name Janica," okay? Or Yannicka. "We are all 40k gamers, and as 9th edition has become more and more bloated, we decided to give it a break and do some role-playing instead for a few weeks. See if something takes off. Well, it did. We've had a great few months with our crew of pirates consisting of me, a rogue, Dave, an illusionist wizard, and the warrior duo of Lance and Becca, a married couple. I will keep this short and sweet, as there is not much preamble, but Lance and Becca have been irritable with each other for a few weeks at the gaming sessions. Nothing major, just a snide comment here or there, which just flew under the radar for the most part. A few months ago now, Lance's character is being flirted with by one of the local hussies in Port Prodigal. Our world is the same world as the Loch Lamora books. Oh, that's cool! Alright, cool. If you don't know, The Lies of Loch Lamora is a pretty good book. If you like a Renaissance-style thief story in a fantasy world, you'll love The Lies of Loch Lamora. Go and read it. And so she says, a few months ago, now Lance's character, the male warrior, is being flirted with by one of the local hussies in Port Prodigal. And he ends up banging this NPC chick. Okay, she ends up sleeping with this prostitute. Bit of a weird thing to do with your wife there. Becca, his wife, looks horrified, folds her rulebook loudly and just leaves the room. No raging, no crying, she is just pale and leaves. Wow. That's a extreme reaction. Ladies, if you're in the comments, if your boyfriend or other half was playing D&D with you and a few friends, and the DM was in a situation with them where they were going to sleep with an NPC, and then they went ahead and did it, would you be annoyed? Would you be annoyed? Just out of curiosity, you know. Fellas too. Just out of curiosity. So, Lance at this moment in time is looking very sheepish and goes after her before heading back in a few moments later, very quietly, and requested to postpone the game. We agreed a bit awkwardly, and we all headed home. We never played again, and we have not heard from this couple since the follow-up message that cancelled the campaign. It turns out Lance had been cheating on Becca, and they had just had the big fallout a few weeks ago and decided to keep going in the relationship. Hence the build-up in tension. And the way he reacted to that NPC wanting to sleep with him just triggered something deep inside Becca, and she called off their marriage entirely. Wow. This left Lance a broken man, and I hope he gets better. Douche behaviour is douche behaviour, but still, that can't be easy to go through. Anyway, that's my story. Thank you for doing what you do, Jan. Wow. Jesus. Okay. But to be fair, I can see her point. Like, if she's forgiven him and she's still trying to get her head around, like, the fact that he did an awful betrayal in their marriage, And then, especially if the dungeon master is a woman as well. I'm not sure if she was or not, if he or she was or not. But as soon as his character gets an opportunity to sleep with somebody, he does, even though his wife's sitting right there. Now, I'm not sure whether they were married in-game as well, or they were together in-game. But that, like, it must have, like, triggered something deep in there where she just goes, actually, no, I've made the wrong decision here. I don't forgive you. Get the fuck out of my house. Do you know what I mean? And you know what? All power to her if that's what she decided, and that's what triggered it for her. But that must have been a powerful moment for her, and I'm really sorry she had to go through that shit. But yeah, I mean, you know, again, as you say, douche behaviour is douche behaviour. Yeah, don't cheat on people, guys. It's not nice. You know, grow a pair of balls and kick it to the curb. You know, don't cheat on her. Don't break her for the next guy. You know, don't be a prick. You know, just lay her down gently. We've had a good time. See you later. Bye. And then go. But don't break her. It's horrible. And yes, I'm fully aware that men's rights and all that, and it happens to men too, but that's not the context of this one message. Anyway, what would you guys think about that? Like, if one of your partners was sleeping with somebody in an NPC in the game. Like, once at university, and I ran a game of D&D, and one of the girls who played with us had a boyfriend, and it was like a couple of years they were, you know, she was with this guy. But she was umming and ahhing about breaking up with him quite a lot to the rest of us, you know. Which, again, was pretty shitty behaviour in itself, but, you know, they were all young. And I was running the campaign, and as soon as I described one of these NPCs, you know, who was a king, she was, like, all over him, like, really liked this NPC, and they ended up sleeping together, right? Now, her boyfriend's a lot bigger than me, so when we went on a Christmas night out and we were sitting around a table, and we were regaling all the people, all the D&D people were regaling everybody with stories about the campaign when they didn't play D&D. Do you know what I mean? And it was like we always ended up recruiting more players that way because my players would go and like tell them stories about what was going on. And somebody brought up the fact that, you know, this girl had slept with this other character, blah blah blah, and her boyfriend was looking around the table going, which one of these motherfuckers is mentally sleeping with my girlfriend, you know. And luckily I got away with it because, like, you know, none of them owned up to it, and because I was the DM, no one, you know, because he didn't know the difference between NPC and PC, you know, so he didn't know the difference between player characters and non-player characters. So I was just sitting there like, yeah, that just happened, you know, just is what it is. You know, it was really awkward for me to do as well. I did a fade to black. I didn't do anything weird. I said no, and, you know, fade to black, whatever, and moving swiftly on. Yeah, so yeah, I can imagine like he would have been really pissed off, but at the same time, now I think about it, I probably just should have called a halt to it and said, look, I'm not comfortable going in this direction if you're not single, you know what I mean? But I didn't really see much, you know, especially the way I was doing it. There was nothing, you know, there was no, like, it wasn't very sexual. It was literally just, yeah, you kissed, fade to black, okay, next day, you know, and that's what we did. So it wasn't even a big deal. But I can understand why he would have been pissed off, but what do you guys think? Anyway, thank you very, very, very much for watching. I will be back tomorrow, which will be Tuesday, where I will be giving one of my own Hobby Nightmare stories, and I'm going to give you a choice of Hobby Nightmare stories from my time at Games Workshop. So, I can either tell you about the time I got into serious trouble for using text-to-speech device videos, and you'll know what I mean if you're a fan of 40k, on my website and for my store as well. I can tell you about being recognised in public as a GW manager and the ups and downs of that. I can go over the losing your faith in the hobby as a GW manager, or I can go over Bugman's Bar and the White Dwarf party that was at Bugman's Bar that I stumbled across when I was there. So those are your four. Go over them again, because I can't repeat them, because it's starting to get a bit late now with me recording. I don't want to wake anybody up. So, thank you very, very, very much for watching. Let me know what you want in the comments section below. If you like what I do, subscribe to the channel, like the video, do all of that fun stuff. I love you all a long time. The Patreon link is down below if you want to head on over there and toss me a pint or something. Love you all, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one.